General Hospital will reveal Kristina had long been known in Port Charles for her impulsive decisions, fiery temper, and a tendency to act out when emotionally wounded. However, the recent accident she caused pushed everything to the brink. In a moment of blind rage, haunted by the pain of losing her unborn child and consumed by the belief that Ava was responsible for it all, Kristina committed an unthinkable act. She tampered with the brakes of a car she believed belonged to Ava. It was a deliberate and calculated move, carried out in silence, without hesitation or thought for the consequences. Her mind was clouded with vengeance, and she saw only one path forward: retaliation. Tragically, the car did not belong to Ava. Instead, it was occupied by two innocent people, Rick and Liz. The resulting crash was devastating. Rick, a man who had once shared a deep connection with Alexis, was left in critical condition. Liz suffered severe injuries and had to be rushed to the hospital. The moment Alexis received the news, her entire world collapsed. It wasn't just the horror of what had happened to Rick and Liz that shattered her, it was the terrifying realization that her daughter's future was unraveling right before her eyes. Alexis was overwhelmed by guilt, fear, and a deep maternal instinct to protect. She knew all too well that if Kristina were brought to trial, the consequences would be unforgiving. The legal system wouldn't overlook the deliberate nature of Kristina's actions. Jail time was a very real and very terrifying possibility. Desperate to shield her daughter from a prison sentence, Alexis acted quickly. She turned to Sonny, still a powerful figure in Port Charles and, more importantly, Kristina's father. Together, they devised a plan that would exploit a painful truth about their family's history. Both Sonny and their late son Morgan had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Alexis proposed using this family history as a basis to argue that Kristina was suffering from the same mental illness, rendering her mentally unfit to stand trial. To carry out this plan, they discreetly reached out to Portia, a respected physician with influence and access. Alexis and Sonny asked Portia to help manipulate the medical narrative by officially stating that Kristina was showing symptoms consistent with bipolar disorder. The strategy was clear. If Kristina could be declared mentally unfit to stand trial, she would be spared from prison and instead placed in a mental health facility for treatment. It was a morally gray plan, but to Alexis, the alternative, seeing her daughter imprisoned for years, was far worse. The pressure mounted as Portia weighed the request, understanding the gravity of falsifying a diagnosis. Yet in this tangled web of family loyalty, desperation, and legal maneuvering, Alexis was willing to sacrifice her integrity for her child's future. Kristina's fate now rested on a lie crafted out of love and fear, but a lie nonetheless. And while the plan might have bought her freedom, the cost of escaping justice would not come without consequence. However, Portia was not easily swayed. Despite Alexis and Sonny's desperate plea, Portia refused to risk her career or reputation without something in return. Calm and calculating, she laid down a condition that neither Alexis nor Sonny had anticipated: if they wanted her cooperation in falsifying Kristina's medical records, they would have to support her in an entirely different and equally treacherous battle. Portia was locked in a growing legal war with Drew, one that had been quietly escalating behind the scenes at General Hospital. What the public didn't yet know, but Drew certainly did, was that Portia had been involved in manipulating critical test results concerning Heather, a patient whose mental state had long been a subject of high-level hospital controversy. Drew, armed with evidence and determined to expose Portia's unethical behavior, had already begun preparing a legal offensive that could ruin her career. He had discovered Portia's involvement in suppressing or altering the outcome of Heather's medical evaluations, particularly during a time when those records were pivotal in a criminal investigation. If Drew went public, it could not only cost Portia her medical license but also result in criminal charges. Knowing the gravity of the situation, Portia saw the opportunity presented by Alexis and Sonny as a means to secure protection. She demanded that the two of them, both deeply connected in the legal and social fabric of Port Charles, used their influence to undermine Drew's case. Alexis, a skilled attorney with considerable reach, and Sonny, with his shadowy network and connections in high places, were the perfect allies to turn the tide in her favor. In exchange for her cooperation, they would help neutralize Drew's threat and shield her from the potential fallout of her own wrongdoing. Faced with no viable alternative and knowing time was running out for Kristina, Alexis and Sonny reluctantly agreed. It was a devil's bargain, one rooted in mutual desperation and shared secrets. Portia, now assured that her interests were protected, moved quickly. Within a matter of days, a carefully curated and restructured medical file was produced, painting a detailed picture of Kristina's supposed rapid decline into a severe bipolar episode. The records outlined erratic behavior, emotional instability, and a psychiatric recommendation for immediate admission to Ferncliff, a well-known facility for long-term mental health treatment. With the falsified documentation in place, Kristina was no longer viewed as a criminal but as a patient in crisis. The legal narrative shifted. Instead of facing trial for a potentially life-ruining crime, Kristina was quietly transferred to Ferncliff under the guise of medical necessity. It was a strategic move that spared her from incarceration, at least for now. But the cost of that freedom was buried in a chain of manipulation, deception, and reluctant alliances that bound Alexis, Sonny, and Portia together in a secret that could destroy them all if ever brought to light. Kristina may have narrowly escaped the grip of the law, but she is far from safe. Her freedom, hastily secured through forged medical records and a web of manipulation, is precarious at best, held together not by justice, but by fragile alliances and dangerous compromises. The truth surrounding the car accident remains buried under layers of deception, sealed by influence, and protected by people with their own secrets to hide. But lies, especially those stitched together with desperation, never remain hidden forever. Ava, sharp and ruthless with an unmatched instinct for survival, has begun to suspect that there's more to the accident than anyone has let on. Though no concrete proof has surfaced yet, Ava's intuition rarely fails her. She sensed the shifting tones in Kristina's behavior, the quiet tension in Alexis's voice, and the subtle way Sonny deflects questions. Ava thrives on control and power. And the moment she uncovers even a sliver of truth, she will not hesitate to exploit it. For Ava, secrets are currency, and Kristina's misstep is a vault waiting to be opened. Meanwhile, Liz remains confined to her hospital bed, her body slowly healing from the wreck, but her mind haunted by the trauma of the crash. Though she hasn't yet recalled every detail, the fog is lifting. Her medical team is hopeful, and her memory is gradually beginning to piece itself back together. When she eventually remembers what happened and who was responsible, the silence that currently protects Kristina could collapse in an instant. But perhaps the most dangerous threat comes not from outside Kristina's circle, but from within her own family. Molly, her younger sister, has always held firm beliefs in fairness, truth, and justice. Her sense of morality is unwavering, shaped by her career in law and her lifelong respect for order. Unlike Alexis, Molly would never look the other way for the sake of family. And Kristina has not only committed a crime, she has gravely injured Rick, Molly's father. That betrayal cuts deeper than any courtroom accusation ever could. Molly may not know the full truth yet, but she is observant, intelligent, and persistent. The inconsistencies in the reports, the whisperings in the hospital, and the way Alexis has become increasingly guarded have already raised red flags. It's only a matter of time before she uncovers what really happened, that her sister, in a misguided act of vengeance, nearly killed her father. And when that truth surfaces, the fallout will be catastrophic. The bond between Kristina and Molly, already strained by years of tension and misunderstanding, will shatter completely. Molly, heartbroken and furious, will stop at nothing to see Kristina held accountable. No amount of family loyalty will soften her pursuit of justice. She will not forgive. She will not forget. And she will not rest until Kristina pays for what she did. The consequences won't stop with their family. Kristina's reputation, already fragile due to her impulsive past, will be obliterated. Her freedom, currently protected by falsified diagnoses and manipulated reports, could be revoked in a heartbeat if the truth reaches the wrong ears. Portia, Alexis, and Sonny would also be implicated, dragged into a scandal that could ruin them all. In the end, Kristina's escape from the law may prove to be nothing more than a temporary illusion. Because no lie, no matter how well constructed, can protect against the storm that is coming, especially when that storm is her own sister, fueled by grief, justice, and a fierce need to make things right. The punishment that Kristina managed to escape through the legal system may not come in the form of a prison sentence, but that does not mean she has truly avoided justice. In fact, the consequences that await her may be far more brutal, far more personal, and far more enduring than anything a courtroom could ever deliver. Legal loopholes, forged medical records, and desperate bargains may have kept her out of handcuffs, but they cannot protect her from the heavy weight of guilt, the collapse of the relationships she once held dear, or the wrath of those she has wronged. Kristina's crime, born from rage and grief, was not only an act of recklessness but also one that hurt people who had never caused her harm. The darkness she unleashed did not only strike her intended target, it swept through the lives of others like a wildfire, leaving devastation in its wake. And while she may not be behind bars, she is not free. Her conscience has become her cell, the unrelenting echo of what she's done becoming louder with each passing day. Her relationships are already fraying. The trust she had within her family is beginning to corrode. The fear and disappointment in her mother's eyes, the silence that lingers between her and her siblings, the unease that creeps into every room she enters, those are punishments in their own right. People who once believed in her now question her every move. Friends grow distant. Allies become wary. And Kristina is left to carry the crushing burden of knowing that her choices may have forever altered the lives of those around her. But perhaps the most searing consequence is the impact on Lucky. Unbeknownst to Kristina, he witnessed the aftermath of what she had done, the broken wreckage, the injured bodies, the chaos her reckless vengeance had created. He saw with his own eyes the damage caused not by a stranger or an enemy, but by someone he once saw as part of the extended family, someone he believed had the heart to do better. And worse still, it was Liz, his wife, the woman he has loved through every storm, who was among the victims. Seeing her lying injured, pale and fragile in that hospital bed, with tubes running from her arms and bruises marking her skin, broke something inside of him. It was a pain that pierced deeper than anger, because it wasn't just that Liz was hurt. It was that someone they knew, someone they trusted, had put her in that hospital bed. Lucky's grief was silent at first, paralyzing. Then it turned into rage. And from that rage bloomed a quiet resolve that justice, no matter how delayed or disguised, would one day find its way back to Kristina. Kristina may have thought that escaping prison meant escaping the worst of it, but the truth is, the punishment that awaits her is far more intimate. It will come in the form of sleepless nights haunted by guilt, in the fractured bonds with the people she loves, in the heavy stares of those who no longer see her as a victim, but as a danger, and in the eventual confrontation with those who saw, felt, and suffered because of her recklessness, especially Lucky, whose eyes now carry a silent vow that this betrayal will not be forgotten. No forged diagnosis, no powerful ally, no well-constructed lie can shield Kristina from what's coming. Because real punishment doesn't always come from the law, it comes from within. And from the people who were forced to pick up the pieces after her storm had passed. Stay tuned for the chapters to come, where the tangled web surrounding Kristina's fate begins to unravel with chilling consequences. While Alexis and Sonny have managed, for now, to shield their daughter from the full force of the law, the question looms large: can they truly protect her forever, or have they only delayed the inevitable? Their alliance with Portia, built on manipulation and mutual desperation, may have bought Kristina time, but time has a way of exposing all truths. What they've done has created a dangerous chain of secrets, lies, and leverage, and the deeper they go, the harder it will be to keep the truth contained. As the story continues to unfold, more pieces begin to fall into place. Lucky's silent torment over Liz's injuries festers beneath the surface. Ava's suspicions grow sharper, and her ambition knows no limits. Molly edges closer to uncovering what really happened to her father Rick. And her pursuit of justice, fueled by heartbreak and betrayal, will stop at nothing. Each of these forces are converging, and when they do, the fragile shield that Alexis and Sonny have built around Kristina could shatter in an instant. And what about Kristina herself? She may no longer be facing prison bars, but the emotional cage around her is tightening. The guilt she carries, the paranoia that someone will discover the truth, and the unrelenting pressure of pretending to be getting better under a false diagnosis are beginning to chip away at her sanity. She is a prisoner of her own actions, her own mind, and her family's cover-up. What awaits her in the shadows of Ferncliff may not be the healing she needs, but rather a terrifying confrontation with her inner demons. The sterile halls. The silence at night, the clinical coldness of the facility, it's a place that amplifies fear and self-doubt. And with the growing possibility that someone within the hospital knows the records were tampered with, even Ferncliff may not be the sanctuary it pretends to be. Worse still, Kristina's freedom is now tied to other people's silence. If Portia's secret about the Heather test results ever comes to light, it could drag down the entire house of cards. If Drew retaliates and brings the truth to the surface, not only will Portia be exposed, but so will Sonny, Alexis, and Kristina. So don't miss the coming episodes, where the tension rises. Loyalties are tested, and long-buried truths threaten to explode. Will Sonny and Alexis be able to keep their daughter safe in a town where secrets never stay hidden for long? Or will Kristina face a reckoning that no one, not even her powerful parents, can prevent? One thing is certain, the worst may not be behind her. The most terrifying part of Kristina's journey might still lie ahead.